This morning on World News Now, demanding justice. American journalists beheaded by ISIS terrorists. From the president to the victims' loved ones, the world united to track down evil.
Life or death, Americans overcome by Ebola, the latest infections, and those who managed to fight the vicious virus and recover. The survival story.
Athletic challenges, making the most difficult basketball trick shots look easy. 3 students share their secrets about their videos, and they're now going viral.
And confronting controversy, George Clooney's decision to make a movie about a scandal that already sounded like a Hollywood script. His green light to a real-life drama in The Skinny on this Thursday, September 4th.
From ABC News, this is World News Now.
Good morning to you. I'm Rena Ninan.
And I'm Tahman Bradley. Why don't we go ahead and get right to our top story, more about ISIS.
The continuing fallout from the murder of American journalist Steven Sotloff.
Mourners gathered at a candlelight vigil last night at the University of Central Florida, which he attended. Syrian-American students helped organize it. Meanwhile, investigators are analyzing the video that shows Sotloff's execution, seeking clues about his killers, while a family member speaks out.
We will not allow our enemies to hold us hostage with the sole weapons they possess: fear.
That sentiment was echoed by world leaders, including President Obama and British Prime Minister, as well as the U.S. considers another raid to free Western hostages held by ISIS in Syria. But ISIS terrorism in the Middle East isn't the only major international hotspot right now. There's also Ukraine.
ABC's Devin Dwyer reports that all of this should make the NATO summit now underway in Wales even more important. Good morning, Devin.
Good morning, Rena and Tahman. It's perhaps the most consequential meeting of NATO allies since the Cold War. President Obama and dozens of world leaders huddled here facing 2 urgent issues of security: what to do about that Russian invasion in Ukraine, and also how to degrade those ISIS militants currently wreaking havoc in Iraq and Syria. The White House says President Obama today will be trying to coordinate a strategy on both fronts with allies. Meanwhile, Vice President Joe Biden at home is talking tougher than his boss on just how far the U.S. is willing to go.
We will follow them to the gates of hell until they are brought to justice. Because hell is where they will reside. Hell is where they will reside.
At a news conference in Estonia yesterday, President Obama sent somewhat mixed messages, saying his goal is to, quote, degrade and destroy ISIS, but then later suggesting it could be simply a, quote, manageable problem. Members of Congress and many world leaders gathered here are looking to President Obama to clarify his strategy for ISIS in Syria, as one Democratic Senator, Dianne Feinstein of California, putting some pressure on, saying if the U.S. doesn't, quote, take the fight to them, they'll bring the fight to our homeland. Rena and Tahman.
Devin Dwyer in Wales, thank you. Turning now to more scrutiny for police in Ferguson, Missouri. Nearly a month after the fatal police shooting of an unarmed black teen, ABC News has learned that the Justice Department is launching a full-scale investigation of the Ferguson Police Department. Sources say it will look into whether officers used excessive force and the way they do stops and arrests.
We are learning new details about the 3rd American and 2nd doctor to be infected with the deadly Ebola virus. 51-year-old Rick Sacra of Boston is in isolation and in good spirits. His colleague Nancy Wrightbro is speaking publicly for the first time about her infection and recovery. Here's ABC's Dr. Richard Besser.
She is one of only 2 Americans to stare down Ebola and survive.
It is a very, very lonely place to be.
Nancy Wrightbro says it was her husband of 40 years who told her she had the deadly disease.
I remember getting up out of the bed and David wanting to put his arms around me and give me a really great hug. And I just pushed him away, not wanting him to get sick.
How hard was that for you?
How do you tell the love of your life that they've contracted a deadly disease?
Nancy called herself the clinic's mama bear, seen here in this video. She had the critical job of decontaminating doctors coming out of the Ebola ward. Now, she was a patient herself. As her condition worsened, a critical decision: an emergency flight back to the U.S.
Was there a period during this when you said goodbye to each other?
I think for me it was when I got on that plane, because I just didn't know. And I know that they had talked that they weren't sure I would even make it to the U.S.
She was wheeled into Emory University Hospital. it was 2 weeks before her husband could even see her through the window.
When I saw David walk in, I was just amazed again of God's grace to us.
I was so struck by how well Nancy looked. She's recovering, she's no longer contagious, and she tells me she's getting stronger every day. Her message to the world, focus on getting help to the people of West Africa. Dr. Richard Besser, ABC News, New York.
The debate raging over the use of antibiotics in meat and dairy is leading to a big change at the grocery store. Purdue, the nation's third largest poultry producer, says it stopped using human antibiotics in virtually all of their chickens and 100% of their egg hatcheries. The move is in response to growing concern that antibiotics in our food make medicine less effective.
But here's one thing that people don't realize. They're still using animal antibiotics, which critics say kind of makes this somewhat meaningless. And I'm also slightly wondering what the system in place is to check. A lot of companies make these big announcements, but food blogs are questioning, will they have some sort of thing in place to make sure that they really are following through and what that infrastructure will be.
Yeah, may need some oversight, and we've got a long way to go. Antibiotic-free chicken is now believed to account for about 10% of the estimated $10 billion that consumers spend on fresh chicken, just 10%.
Okay, well, fast food workers are planning to walk off their jobs today, demanding a $15 an hour wage. The last time they walked off the job was in May. Organizers expect strikes today in more than 100 cities. They also say workers will use nonviolent civil disobedience to make their point. The fast food industry says a $15 an hour wage would wipe out profits.
Here's an ominous new prediction about drought in California and through the Southwest. A new study claims so-called mega drought lasting about 35 years has a greater chance of actually happening. Researchers say nothing is for sure, but they claim that such a drought occurs naturally every few centuries, and they stress that even the threat of a prolonged drought should force everyone to conserve water. And spinning in the Pacific, Norbert has strengthened into a hurricane off the coast of Mexico. Norbert is currently packing winds of 75 miles per hour and is centered about 200 miles south of the Baja Peninsula. It's dumping heavy rains across Mexico's tourist destinations. However, Norbert is not expected to make landfall. It's expected to track northwest along the Baja Peninsula.
Now here's a look at the nation's weather. Severe weather from the southwest up into the Great Lakes, bringing torrential rains, powerful winds, and damaging hail. Heavy rain for the southeast, the Gulf Coast up to Washington, D.C.
The Midwest and South remain hot and humid with temperatures in the 80s and 90s, 106 for Phoenix. Cooler in the upper plains and Northwest, 70s and even 60s. Okay, first of all, we should say there is plenty of skepticism about this video we're going to be showing you. It's the latest in a long line of weird things that have been captured by dashboard cameras in Russia.
Of all places, Russia. So here we go. We see the driver of a vehicle apparently telling off the driver of this minibus right in the middle of the road, and look who or what gets off of the minibus and attacks the guy. Can you tell? 4 people dressed as cartoon characters, Mickey Mouse and SpongeBob SquarePants.
They take that guy down with punches and kicks before retreating back to the minibus where they drive off. Whether that's real or staged, we'll let you decide, but pretty cool. Should have worn like Batman costumes, Superman, but those are like American heroes, right?
Yeah.
The world appreciates them.
I'm sure that our parent company, Disney, is really excited about this video.
Yeah, that's true.
And SpongeBob owns Nickelodeon? I can't remember, but
not sure.
Yeah.
But Mickey is us.
Yeah.
Mouse comes in to save the day.
Mouse always does.
I love videos like that.
Well, coming up, sharing a celebrity social media tirade. Find out who went absolutely crazy on Twitter, blasting the media. Getting personal.
What does he have against us? But first, the smartphone app that's really smart. When a baby was in serious life-threatening trouble, see who came to the rescue thanks to a point and click. You're watching World News Now.
World News Now weather. Brought to you by Lysol Toilet Bowl Cleaner.
Well, incredible rescue, all thanks to a very smart app for your smartphone. It's called Pulse Point, and it's making heroes out of everyday people.
A Washington state man sprang into action when he got a message alerting him a nearby baby had stopped breathing. ABC's Michael Strahan has the story.
The power of technology helping to save lives.
We have an infant who's not breathing.
Okay, are they awake at all?
No.
When a month-old baby suddenly stopped breathing in Leslie Recker's shop, she called 911.
I saw her and she just was saying he's not breathing, he's not breathing.
But just 2 blocks away, mechanic Jeff Olson heard an alarm go off on his phone. He registered his phone with the app Pulse Point, alerting people who know how to do CPR with local emergencies.
I looked at it and it said CPR needed, and it gave the address.
With first responders still several minutes away, Olson arrived and immediately performed a life-saving service.
This guy came out of nowhere and just scooped the baby up and really knew what he was doing, which was just such a blessing to all of us.
I don't think I've ever done CPR on an infant before, or even rescue breathing, and it was, when I got done, I shook for about 10 minutes.
The Spokane Fire Department grateful for the assist.
The reason why we are so invested in this technology is because you can be a lifesaver.
While Leslie, the mother, and her baby grateful for their new friend who had the foresight to simply download an app.
That is great. More and more emergency services across the country are using this technology, and it's working. And if you're cynical about all these apps and gadgets, that's an example of how it can benefit society.
How it can.
Good
Apparently,
stuff.
you just sign up, and if you're an EMT, like this, the man in the video was actually a volunteer EMT, got the call and came out. So you just register in on the app.
Good stuff. Ordinary heroes.
Absolutely. Well, coming up, big surprises as Forbes lists the highest paid actresses on TV.
And don't get mad. One celebrity's major rant on social media. We'll show it to you next in The Skinny. Topping The Skinny this morning, a big announcement from The View. The final 2 co-hosts have been revealed. Actress Rosie Perez and political analyst Nicole Wallace. They'll have a seat at the table. Rosie shot to fame in the movie Do the Right Thing and, of course, White Men Can't Jump.
Nicole worked in the Bush White House and for the McCain-Palin campaign. She and Rosie will join Whoopi and Rosie O'Donnell when the new season gets underway in only 2 weeks. That'll be Monday, September 15th. I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like it's total refresh. It's a great cast, great group of women who are strong and outspoken, but have really different perspectives.
They are terrific. You know, my all-time favorite host on there was Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
Really?
I miss her.
Ooh,
she was just great.
Interesting.
Always said something spicy.
Yeah.
Right there with Rosie and their epic fight.
Interesting.
It was great TV.
But I think these women have a lot to offer.
They're going to be great.
Yeah,
I'll
be
watch. I'll be a guy watching.
Okay, there you go.
Can learn something. All right, now to Nick Cannon, who went on a Twitter rant after weeks of reports that his 6-year marriage to Mariah Carey is over. Cannon broke his silence with some 20 angry tweets.
He did not confirm the breakup, but did say that this is a challenging time for him and his family.
But Cannon seemed most upset about what he called slander against Carey, who he said had blessed him with their 2 children. He wrote, "I will always love her unconditionally for this and so much more. Mariah Carey is an amazing mother, and I trusted her wholeheartedly." It was interesting. I saw a report where he said that she was crazy and he was trying to protect the children. Maybe that report wasn't true. Maybe that's why he's mad at us in the press.
Personal lives are so touchy, aren't they? Well, George Clooney's next movie directing project is called Hack Attack. It's based on the book of that exact title about the British phone hacking scandal at one of Rupert Murdoch's newspapers, the News of the World, which was shut down because reporters hacked into the voicemails of politicians, celebrities, and even royals. The red-haired editor, Rebecca Brooks, you see there, and a dozen other employees were arrested. Clooney says the story has it all: lying, corruption, blackmail, involving the government and the media. Plus, he says all of it is true. I'm curious to know who will play Rebecca Brooks.
Well, you had the red-haired actress Julianne Moore, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this next story about Will Smith is probably true. Let's just get that out of the way. Probably. It starts with an Instagram video from the Burning Man event. Here, take a look. It shows a group of people dancing on Segways and shirtless, and the shirtless gas mask guy that right there, that's reportedly Will Smith. How do we know? I don't know.
What is going on there? Well, here's the picture he posted on his Facebook page on Sunday. The same mask, along with the words, "Headed to Burning Man." Hey, it's pretty convincing.
All right, who would you guess are the highest paid TV actresses in Hollywood? Well, according to Forbes magazine, Kelly Cuoco, she's in 3rd place with an estimated earnings of $11 million. The Big Bang Theory star also does endorsements from Priceline and Toyota.
And Mariska Hargitay is in second place with $13 million in earnings. That's after 15 seasons of Law & Order SVU. Many of those shows are now in syndication, and topping the list for the third year in the row, Sofia Vergara.
Ooh la la.
$37 million. Can you believe that? The co-star, of course, of Modern Family also has top endorsements and even her own media company.
She's really nice in person. All right, it's time for some celebrity birthdays.
Well, let's take a look at who's celebrating. Actress and singer, dancer Mitzi Gaynor turns 83.
TV and radio host Dr. Drew Pensky, he turns 56. Former baseball player Mike Piazza, got to get him in the Hall of Fame, he turns 46.
And the one and only Beyonce, she turns 33.
Happy birthday, boo.
A big happy birthday to all of you.
Beyonce.
Let's go round two.
Well, you're seeing them on YouTube, those basketball trick shots that look impossible to pull off.
Well, 3 college students spent their whole summer perfecting this art, and now they're revealing their secrets. Steve McCarran of our Seattle station has the story.
In basketball, there are good shots, and then there are great shots. Shane Miller will tell you there's a feeling you get when one is about to go in.
It's a huge adrenaline rush.
Last year, this Bellingham teen and 2 childhood friends decided to take that feeling to a whole new level. What? They had seen trick shot videos online and wanted to create their own.
We thought it'd be a fun thing to do in the summer.
Their first video got so many views. They bought a portable hoop this summer so they could test different shots at homes, buildings, and even a jet ski. The end result leaves anyone wondering, how in the world did they do that?
We just try to think of really cool shots and something that we can actually do in a decent amount of time.
Most shots take them a few minutes to master. Shane's favorite?
I hope it's recording.
This one at the beginning of their latest video.
I had been going at that shot for probably about 40 minutes, just hadn't been going in, kept getting close, and then I happened to make it immediately after Aaron made a shot, which was just perfect.
Since being posted online, their latest collection has already generated more than 3,500 views.
I just hope people really appreciate the hard work that we've been doing.
And even though all 3 guys are heading back to college, they're already thinking about how to up the ante even more. Their next video will likely come out next summer.
I really can't wait for next year. I hope we get to do it again.
Steve McCarran, KOMO 4 News.
I always love the reaction. I think that's called the anchor whack shot. All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's coming back at you. That's from the viewers at home.
Right back at you. Now there's a trick shot.
Oh my goodness.
Did you have a point you wanted to make? No, don't let me stop.
What happened to the newscast? Save me, America. Save me.
This is ABC's World News Now, informing insomniacs for 2 decades.
Good morning, I'm Rena Nina.
And I'm Tahman Bradley. Here are some of our top headlines we're following this morning on World News Now. Analysts are checking the video of Stephen Sotloff's beheading, looking for clues about the location of the Americans' killers. Another raid to try to free Western hostages would be difficult, but experts say not impossible.
The third American and second doctor to be infected with the deadly Ebola virus, 51-year-old Boston obstetrician Rick Sacra is in isolation in Liberia and said to be in good spirits. It's not clear whether he can be flown to the U.S. for treatment.
Purdue says it stopped using human antibiotics in virtually all of its chicken in response to growing concern that antibiotics in our food make medicine less effective. But it's still using animal antibiotics, which critics say are just as dangerous.
And no one seems to know how a 6-foot-long boa constrictor wound up in the drive-through lane of a Burger King in Illinois. When customers told workers about it, they called animal control officers for help. Those are some of our top stories on this Thursday, September 4th.
From ABC News, this is World News Now.
Well, it's almost Friday to you. Good morning.
Friday Eve indeed. Good morning, everyone. And we're going to begin this half hour with the murder of American freelance journalist Steven Sotloff.
His family says he wasn't drawn to conflicts in the Middle East, but to bring out the stories of those caught in the crossfires. He was also remembered at the Florida college he attended with a candlelight vigil last night.
And U.S. officials promised to go after the terrorists who killed Sotloff. ABC's Karen Travers reports. Okay, Karen, thank you. And ABC News has learned that a federal investigation will soon be underway into the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department. The Justice Department will announce today that it plans to look into whether the Ferguson police has fair practices on stops, arrests, and use of force. The investigation follows violent protests after the police shooting death of Michael Brown, an unarmed black teen. A science experiment turned dangerous at a museum in Reno, terrifying a room filled with children. 7 kids were among 9 people rushed to the hospital following a routine demonstration at Discovery Museum. The staff was using a machine to simulate a tornado when it malfunctioned and a chemical flash occurred, causing multiple acid burns. Most of those injured are back home from the hospital this morning.
It's been exactly 1 week since Joan Rivers was rushed to a New York hospital in cardiac arrest. Now her family is sharing news about a move she just made inside the hospital. ABC's Mara Schiavocampo has the details.
Joan Rivers' daughter Melissa revealing new information, saying in a statement, "My mother has been moved out of intensive care and into a private room where she is being kept comfortable." While she didn't provide an explanation for the move, this week she confirmed her 81-year-old mother does remain on life support. One doctor who is not treating Rivers says it can be hard to tell what the move means.
The fact that Joan Rivers has been moved into a private room potentially is good news, but we don't really know, maybe even for a few more days in the case of Joan.
The comic legend has been unconscious and hospitalized for nearly a week after going into cardiac arrest at this endoscopy clinic, sidelining a relentless schedule. The very night before going into the hospital, Rivers was performing in New York City. The woman known for making so many laugh, now in everyone's prayers.
Mara Schiavocampo, ABC News, New York.
In Detroit, even the judge was emotional at a sentencing of the man who killed a 19-year-old woman who banged on his door in the middle of the night. Theodore Wafer will spend at least the next 17 years behind bars. He was convicted for the shooting death of Renisha McBride when she showed up on his porch acting strangely after a car accident. At the hearing, Wafer apologized to her family.
I can only hope and pray that somehow you can forgive me.
The jury rejected Wafer's claim of self-defense and found him guilty of second-degree murder. The judge said she knew Wafer had acted out of fear, but also out of anger, and that is not an excuse for murder. The judge also saying, Rena, that it was one of the saddest cases she's ever seen, and that she doesn't believe Wafer's a cold-blooded murderer, and that it had nothing to do with race. And of course, he's 55 years old, so a sentence longer than 10 years is basically a death sentence, some people say.
You know, the big thing that people were worried about in this case was that it would be a big racial issue, but the race issue, the black and white thing, didn't really come up.
Right.
So people were kind of surprised by it, but, you know, as the judge said, you know, 1 life was ruined and 1 life lost, so still incredibly tragic.
And we'll never know why that victim was at his house at 4:30 in the morning.
Fascinating case, though, still.